Happy holidays. It's that time of year, and also pronounced that time of year. We have Old St. Nick with us here, Jerry Diorio, ready to bring some
Denny.
presents to you and talk football. Not my best open ever, but here we are on this Friday. Jerry, back in the state of Michigan on this Friday the 13th. You ready to go? You staying warm?
Gosh, Denny, I didn't even realize it. Great to be a Michigan Wolverine, even on Friday the 13th, Denny.
Yeah, you're not in Florida yet, although, this last few days you probably wish you were, right?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm not real happy right now being here, but I'll be here.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you're here, and so is everyone else. And
I'm happy I'm here on this broadcast, Denny. But remember, I can do this podcast from Florida. So
yeah, you can do it anywhere in the world. That's what's great about podcasting and all of that. We'll talk. Jerry did not get his thoughts on Michigan's new offensive coordinator. We'll see what he's thinking about it. Also, we got the ReliaQuest Bowl, some information about that game and bowl season, which actually gets started tomorrow. If you're someone that is all about all of the different bowl games, maybe in a bowl pool or something like that. But we're going to start out with the big news, and that is the portal, which is front and center. As we know, Michigan is set for bowl preparations and practice and getting down to Tampa and working out and bringing 16 early enrollees that'll be down there. And after they go through some of their intros, they'll be able to practice a little bit, but also with an eye on next year more than ever with the transfer portal. And they've been working at it. And, Jerry, you're Sean McGee, who's Michigan's general manager. All year long, he's had a board on positions that Michigan will be looking for, players that are possible. They have put a number on what they think those guys are worth, and they have back-channeled them. And here we are. The thing about Michigan is that you can make a case they need a portal player at every position on offense except tight end. And, if you want to break it down on the offensive line, probably not center, but they need a couple different offensive linemen. You can make the case. And on defense, a lot of guys that they have to take care of that you don't know about, from Benny to Derek Moore to Barham. Those guys take care of your own free agents or portal guys before you then go out and look. I think everybody would like to see the three guys I just mentioned coming back for Michigan. But the biggest is quarterback. And even though Michigan has Bryce Underwood, it's not like they're just going to go into next year and say, okay, Bryce, here you go. And away you go.
Well, Denny, here. Okay. Yeah, we have a quarterback issue. But I don't think that's our biggest problem. I'm sorry. We've got to shore up some people that are missing. Number one, in my opinion, we need to get Kenneth Grant to think about coming back for his fourth year and maybe moving up into a high first round instead of a low first round, second round pick. In my opinion, our immediate need is our defensive and offensive line. We have to shore up those two groups, especially our interior defensive line. We've got to shore those up. And we're losing Graham. What a great career he had. One of, if not the best defensive lineman I've seen. I mean, I go back a long time. Dewey, what were the Sooner brothers? What were they? Dewey Louie and Lucius. What were they? The Selman brothers.
Selman brothers, yeah.
The Selman brothers. Okay. We've seen Warren Sapp. We've seen some great ones throughout the years, and I got no problem putting Mason Graham's name right up with the best of them. So we're losing one of the greatest defensive linemen that have ever played a game. So my thought is we've got to replace some pretty good people up front in that interior. If we're going to do anything next year, our defense has got to be solid.
Yeah, well, you and I can sit around arguing about that, or I don't know, debating it or discussing it and having everybody else, because you can make a case for other positions. The one part that we don't know, but we have a clue because we know Michigan went big with Bryce Underwood, and how much ever money that you want to believe. There was a report that spilled out, and then there was a New York Times story that had some quotes from his dad. And so people could say, well, this is how much he's getting. And you could say, no, this is how much he's getting. We don't really know, but it's a lot. I tend to believe that it is in the 8-figure area, and not, towards the low part, if that's, even you could even say that.
And to my point, Denny, and what I'm saying is we put resources in that position. We've got to put resources in other positions now.
Well, my thought is I don't know what that pull. We're thinking because they're in for a penny, they're going to be in for a pound now. So if you went with Bryce Underwood, it's not like you'd say, okay, well, the collective's really restrained now. We're really just going to have to deal now from a small pool of money. They need to have, and we don't know how much is there, but if they, Ohio State, I think we're close to all agreeing that they threw out $20 million for this year's a portal class, and then and Ole Miss was in the 8 figures. So when you're looking at it that way, you're talking about a lot of money, and a lot of those players that we just talked about. There's a saying, Jerry, in the NFL, when you come down to, you see teams give up multiple first-round draft picks, players, and everything else. And the saying is, you never give up too much if you get it right. And if whoever the transfer portal quarterback is that comes in, we have an idea at least who's the leader in the clubhouse here today. If they end up getting that right, it doesn't matter if they give that guy $500,000, $1 million. You have to have that right. And I think that for Michigan, whether you think it was bad luck, mismanagement, a little bit of both, whatever, when it came down to the quarterback room, it was a disaster last year. They didn't have a playable quarterback. I think because of that, they went after Underwood. And I also think that they're not going to, whether you want to say, scrimp or whatever, they're going to put a lot of resources in. But if you're a transfer quarterback, a portal quarterback, do you want to come into Michigan when you know sooner or later Bryce Underwood is going to be taking over? I'm going to say probably not. So
that's another one. That's to my point, Denny. I mean, don't waste all your time on that one position. Don't get sold on that one position. You got 10 others that go around them on offense and 11 on defense and special teams. You got a ton of these people that are missing from the last couple years on Michigan's team. So we've got defensive tackle, interior defensive tackles that are missing. Now, I think you're bringing up is this Maryland's guy, Denny?
This is Billy the Kid, Billy Edwards Jr., who, if we are talking about, if somebody said, hey, who's the leader for Michigan right now in terms of the portal quarterback last week or even the last month, it seemed like Miller Moss was the name. This is the name right now that has emerged. And if you have watched Michigan didn't play Maryland last year, but the year prior when they won the national championship, Billy Edwards came in and ran for 3 touchdowns.
Absolutely. Yep.
And if you remember when they played him in 2022, when it was a tight game against Maryland, and that was a game that came down, was a 1-possession game. Talia either got benched or got hurt. It might have been a little bit of both, but Edwards came in that game and acquitted himself okay in that one. But you might be like going, wow, this is not a very big name. This is not somebody that is moving the meter. And I think you might be right about that. It's not somebody that jumps out and you think, oh, he's going to be a championship quarterback, but he's might be the best that you can get when it comes down to having Bryce Underwood, staring over your shoulder.
And I'm good with that, Denny. And that, again, you're going to my point here. I'm not saying to go out and get the number 1 portal quarterback out there right now. I don't think it's worth it. I think you've got a lot of other issues. This guy has got experience. If we can get him and get him somewhat, for lack of a better term, cheap, and compliment Bryce Underwood in the meantime, that would be a beautiful thing. But to me, just wasting all your money and putting all into a big time transfer quarterback this year, I don't think that's the right move. This guy can move. Yes, you said it right, Denny. This guy scored 3 touchdowns against us running the ball, so this guy can move. I like that about him. He's a good moving quarterback, runs the ball well. He's got experience throwing the ball. The offense down at Maryland is very innovative, so that's a good thing. So if we can get this guy and not sell out the farm and try to get some other guys back, that would be a good thing. That would be a good thing.
Yeah, I would just argue, Jerry, with you about it. If Michigan and this, Billy the Kid, Billy Edwards, he's a mid-tier, like he's a reasonable quarterback that could come in. He still might cost a pretty penny, but it's really not about being able to target whatever Michigan thinks the top 3 or 4 or 5 transfer portal quarterbacks are. It's not really about the money. They're not coming unless you say, hey, look, not only are you, can compete for the job, they understand. It wasn't so long ago that Clemson had Kelly Bryant as a senior quarterback who had done pretty well for Dabo Swinney and Clemson, right. But they had Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence didn't start from game 1, but everybody was like, when does Trevor Lawrence start? When's Trevor Lawrence start? And the first, it ended up being in this Georgia Tech game and the Syracuse game, I think that he came in and played well, and then, he took right over. You feel like at some point this guy's going to take over, so it's not going to be so much the money part. It's going to be more of the playing time and the chance for the very top guys. Now, so, Michigan keeps going. This is the guy we like, but then, this guy doesn't want to come in. So then you get to a player that is going to be okay with the money and is going to be okay with Underwood looking over his shoulder. And it looks like this is the target number 1.
And that fits, Denny. That's where we're at right now. We've got to find a quarterback that's going to work within the system, meaning he knows that he's got somebody really good looking over his shoulder, ready to step in anytime. He's here to try to win a championship. I'm sure that's why he would want to come here.
Yeah.
He can move. He's got game experience. We're not going to give up too much, and we can go still concentrate on other areas. I like this pick. I think this would be a good pick, a good fit for Michigan, and I think his mind is thinking it would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, and the whole part, and here's my man, M Go Blue 1234, who's buying us a sandwich on this Friday. It says we need to give guys the bag in the portal. They need to give guys on the team, that are there right now that we mentioned, like Derek Moore. Those guys need money, and
Kenneth Grant is not gone yet.
Yeah,
Kenneth Grant is not gone yet. Okay, we've got some people out there that can really make our defense really sound next year, really top-notch defense again, with pieces on the offense. Underwood looking over a possible transfer from Maryland at quarterback. That would be a great thing, in my opinion.
Well, and here's the thing, and maybe there's reason to be. What's that?
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Denny?
I was going to say maybe there's reason to be optimistic about Michigan just, dropping bags all over the place. Maybe Jolyn Ellison, I guess, maybe she's like, yeah, let's spend $50 million. I don't know. And so then maybe Kenneth Grant is in play. Maybe all of the guys that you want Michigan to stay here, maybe it's all a reality, and maybe all of the top targets that are out there that you want at running back, that you want at wide receiver and an offensive line, maybe Michigan just stands in there and says, hey, tonight we'll have a Zoom with Jolyn and with Sharon, and we'll give you any money that you want. The money all behind the scenes, that's what I don't know. I don't know how much money Michigan, what they're working with. We feel like it could be a lot because Jolyn just, came to the table with, and got Bryce Underwood.
Portnoy's still got $3 million out there that he hasn't spent yet.
Well, that's it. And Michigan fans, they know that it's about, and that's the one thing about the quarterback position. All the other positions, it's like you can get in there, maybe not the offensive line, but if you need a couple, if you wanted to get 2 running backs, why not? But so we'll see. That the part about the money is that it's the unknown, and people are saying a lot of things about, well, it's this and that, and we just don't know, what they're doing and what they're going to be able to do. So maybe they will have a ton of money, but I think it's wishful thinking about Kenneth Grant because he's going to be a first-round pick. But
could be. I might be, and I'm not denying that one bit, Denny. But remember, we did keep Zinner, we did keep Corum, we did keep all those guys that were ready to go to the NFL. And one of the reasons was they might have made more money staying in Michigan than they did going to the NFL.
Well, that's right. And they have kept so far Dominic Zavada. I don't know what, they had to kick in something, for him. So there we are. So, yeah, Edwards might be the one. The other news that has just come down is that Alex Orji has gone into the transfer portal. And there's no surprise there. I mean, Alex Orji looked like all summer long, we all talked about it. He's probably going to be the quarterback one. Whenever Michigan talked about him, they talked about him in glowing terms. But, he's not a college starting quarterback. And the thing that Michigan was selling and saying that in practice, that essentially he was lighting it up. And then when he couldn't take it to Saturdays. And there's a lot of players that do that. It happens a lot in baseball where guys, I don't know about a lot. It happens where the guys they're not ready. They can't, when they get the bright lights on, they're not the same player in practice. What do you guys call that? State Street? It's different between State Street and Main Street?
Something like that, Denny. Okay.
Right. I mean, so I think that is, and that sounds harsh.
Backstage and front stage. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds harsh towards Orji, but if he really was making all these plays in the spring and fall, then that's what it is. Like, so he wasn't able to make any of those plays, and so you wish him well wherever he goes. Now, the other part is about quarterback too. So if we think it's going to be Billy, we got Bryce Underwood and Billy Edwards at some point. However that plays out, and then you start thinking about, well, is Davis Warren, who's I guess quarterback one heading into the bowl game, but you also have Jadyn Davis. And I would say this about Jadyn Davis: look, freshman, you can go the whole year and everything else, but if Jadyn Davis can't overtake the third string quarterback in bowl practice and play against Alabama, then he should go to the transfer portal. I'm not, I would think that would mean that he's a fourth string quarterback. And, maybe he wants to wait around and he just loves Michigan and everything else, but we're going to find out. But I would guess that he would be in the transfer portal.
I can see I can see him leaving. Absolutely. I'll tell you, Denny, this is the guy I would really like to go after, and I'm getting off the quarterback again.
All right.
Is that all right with you?
Yeah. I'm fine. I've said everything I wanted to say about the quarterback. I'll see if anybody else had anything.
All right, couple players that really stick out to me in this portal. Number one, Julian Humphrey out of Georgia. We're losing one of the best cornerbacks that ever played at Michigan. And this guy, I think, could come in and really help out our secondary, really solidify a solid secondary that's coming back next year. We got a lot of people coming back, potentially Rod Moore coming back from an injury.
That's right.
We're gonna have a really nice secondary classroom. By putting another lockdown corner in there makes me feel real good. And I always like our cornerbacks are that's a tough position to solidify. And if we can get somebody like that in the transfer portal, that would be a nice steal. That would be a nice one.
All right. I like that name. I just want to answer some of the feedback. Kenneth is saying, so what happened to Jadyn Davis? Are y'all giving up on him already? Damn. Well, Kenneth, you just watch the team this year, and there is the part that he was just a true freshman. So it takes time for guys to acclimate, and maybe he'll go on and be an excellent player. But this was also a season where Michigan had no playable quarterbacks, and he didn't even get mentioned as even, having a chance to sniff the field. That says something. Whatever you want to think about the arm motion, maybe he'll go somewhere that they'll correct his throwing motion, but it's also, you're getting ready. What I've said, that if he does not go out there in bowl preparation and he can't take over a guy that's going to be your third string quarterback with two other guys coming in, well, what's the reason to stay around? Again, maybe he just likes it here, which is great. But
I don't even see the enthusiasm coming from him to go in there and take the job over. I haven't seen that.
No. Well, there's a lot. I don't think that the media, and specifically his dad, did him any favors when he was on with an interview and said that, yeah, he might have been, saying like, look, we hope he, gets his studies and he can, work out behind the scenes, and it wouldn't be the worst thing, if he ended up sitting out in his freshman year. Well, everybody that heard that interview was like, they want him to sit out. They don't want him to play. And it caught like wildfire. And even when you tell people, it's like, that's not exactly what he said. You're just interpreting it. Nobody believes it. They heard what they heard. Exactly. They don't care.
Yeah.
And so the narrative is that Jadyn Davis, his dad, didn't. Sharon Moore said that wasn't the case. The interviewer said that wasn't the case. But the people that heard it didn't care, and that's what they took out of it. So the narrative is that Jadyn Davis didn't want to play this year. So if he didn't want to play last year, and I heard a report midway through the season, there was just one person that watches practice, but it is one person that watched practice, told me that if you watched him, he was telling me it's really clear that he's not ready to play college football. And so and he also talked about his motion and that they hadn't corrected it. So, nobody, I don't know. I haven't heard any reports like, oh, Davis, man, he's just throwing the ball all over the lot. Scar saw a practice with him out there, and he said he liked what he saw. And in the spring game, he looked all right. But I don't know. If I had to guess, that it is that he would be gone.
I'm still wondering what Davis Warren is going to do. This is intriguing to me. I'd like to keep him, but I don't know if he's going to stay, especially if Edwards comes in. But on Davis Warren, this guy's got experience. And you say what you want. This guy went into Columbus and brought a win home. Okay? That's not all quarterbacks at Michigan do that. Okay? So this guy's got a lot of experience. We've seen him make some really good throws. How much was it the system and what we were doing that might have hurt him in some of the play calling? But I'm interested in seeing what he does.
Yeah, I think that you're talking about a third or fourth string quarterback, for next year. So if he wants to stay around, this isn't specific to Davis Warren, but it's like when I've gone shopping over the last couple months. I don't do a lot of shopping, Jerry, but I've gone out the last couple months. I remember I got some eggs, some milk, I grabbed some, some hamburger, whatever else. And I went out and, I've scanned it up and there was like $65. I had like 4 things. I'm like, are you kidding me? I thought this was going to be like $20. So I thought that but no, that's how much groceries are now. They're like 4 or 5 times of what you think they're going to be. I think that's what it's like with the transfer portal right now. Somebody told me this week that I can't tell you who the Michigan player was, but they all meet with Sharon Moore, and this player came in, and Sharon said, "Hey, we have a valuation on you. We think we can give you $70,000." That's what Sharon said, and the player came back and said, "I'm looking for $250,000." And that's a huge gap, of where you're at, and it's going to remind me a little bit with a lot of these guys, like baseball arbitrations, where you have to, you like a guy, but you basically have to say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is we have this amount. So yeah, what guys think they're worth and what Michigan thinks they're worth and everything else is fascinating, to be in there, and how the game is a lot like the pros and everything else. Kenneth, I think that Michigan attacked in recruiting. They've got some wide receivers, and I think that it's very high on their wish list. Sure, I hope they go out for the kid from San Jose State, or Ash or whatever. I'm sure they have a list of 10, 20 guys that they would like, but they've got money, they've got playing time, they've got opportunity. So I would think that they would be able to land a guy or two from the transfer portal. Jerry, it just occurred to me, but I wanted to ask you. I was talking about, how the game has changed. It's more like the pros. What about Belichick? Do you think he's going to succeed at Carolina?
I saw. What was I watching? Was it the NFL Today? And I think Brady, Gronk, and Julian Edelman were on, and they asked them all, and they were playing a quiz game, and they said, "Can Bill Belichick play in the coach in college?" And I was surprised at how fast Brady said no way.
I was too, but if you're thinking about somebody that can judge talent and then coach and talk about ball security and technique, even when he was
and what it takes to get to the NFL.
Well, that part, but I was thinking of when he was the one that was scouting and getting all of these players when he drafted a lot of them. He was taking guys in the first round that other teams were going to be taking to the fourth or fifth round. So he might be able to do a lot more with a lot less. And he's in the ACC where, SMU damn near, is in the college football playoff. So everybody that's like, oh, he's 72 years old and he's just worried about, trying to find another 21-year-old girlfriend, or he's just doing it for his son, which all might be true. And that does come off as a little bit weird. It's also, SMU is in the college football playoff. So I'm not going to not say that. I think do I think that North Carolina would be in the college football playoff in 3 years? Would I take that bet? Or would I say, absolutely not? No, I would take the bet. I would take the bet that I think he could get him in there.
Denny, Coach Belichick has his system. He knows what he wants to do. And he knows what the talent he needs to get it done. And so, someone was comparing him and Saban and how Belichick was successful in the pros and Nick Saban wasn't. And Nick Saban got out of this college industry maybe because it was starting to look a little bit more like the pros. And now all of a sudden Bill Belichick gets into college football. Why? Maybe because he knows how to manipulate some of the finances in the system a little bit like in the pros. So, can Belichick be successful in North Carolina? I think he can. I think he can be successful. I think he's got the future in their face. He's saying, "Look, my son is going to take over," and his son is a good coach. Denny, let's not poo-poo that. That's a pretty good coach. And I think he can.
Yeah, but I still don't like that if he went there. That part of the deal, and I watched his press conference, and not one person in that whole newsroom put their hand up and said, "Hey, you got some sweetheart deal for your son to take over and a succession plan?" I would have asked that question. That would have definitely been on my list, but nobody had. It took 100 questions, and I didn't hear that one come up at all. He probably would have, all of them would have denied it, especially Bubba, who had cut his sleeves off on his suit, who was standing up there with him. All right, we can sit around talking about Belichick all day long. How about MGO Blue 1234 has come back with another Finsky and the question of the day. Jerry, your thoughts on Bryce Underwood potentially starting from day one? Go.
It's happened in the past. I think Rick Leach started day one, didn't he? And I think
so. As a freshman, I think that's right.
I think Henny started as a day one freshman as well.
You're correct. As a true freshman, Chad Henne did. Right.
Freshman. Okay. So it's been done at Michigan in the past. It's not something that is completely off the table. I don't think it's in the best interest of the team or the quarterback in that situation. I think there's a growing curve that he's going to have to go through, and you don't want to make mistakes like that. Potential injury if you make too many mistakes like that. But no, Bryce Underwood is a very gifted player. I think he has a little bit of an accuracy issue that he's got to work on. I think he can move, but I'd like to see him learn a little bit before he starts.
Yeah, if this is what we're doing, we're going to say, do I think he's going to start from day one? I am going to say no. And I think it's going to be the best for Michigan, and I think it's going to be the best for Bryce if he doesn't. Let's say it's Billy Edwards. Let Billy Edwards go out there in the first game. You can go out. You can play a little bit of Bryce Underwood. You go down to Oklahoma, and then, you got Billy Edwards. You can play Bryce. I don't know if you're going to play in that game because, you would think that one would be pretty close, but you're going to have some games after that. And then, look, we'll be able to see it then. If he's having success, and I know that people say the coaches are going to, we'll all know by seeing it then. And the one thing that I would say that I'm worried about, that I haven't heard people talk about, I was worried that Sharon Moore last year, that they whiffed so hard on all of the quarterbacks and their evaluation of them, their playing of them, how they practiced them, all of these things, they messed up. Now they've got a new offensive coordinator. Maybe he'll help that out. Of course, that's, why you bring him in and everything else. But my whole point to that is that, listening to the coaches, behind the scenes and have them spill out, nothing against any insiders or anything else, but I'm not sure how much when I hear through the grapevine that, oh yeah, Bryce, okay, well, let's wait till I see him out on the field ourselves before I hear how great.
Right. Exactly.
Or
college football is a little bit different.
To you, Jerry, that in the NFL, when you're a number one overall pick, or you're like certainly a first rounder, it's about a 50-50 proposition of whether you're going to make it or not. Absolutely. Now in college, you can look to, the top recruit composite over the last 10 or 20 years. You can take the top 2 players that are like for rivals.com I looked not for the last 3 years. We don't know for sure, but then prior to that, I looked for 10 years, and it was about, I don't know, it was maybe a little bit more than 50-50 that the guys ended up hitting. Now, I think it's about a 65-35 that Bryce Underwood would hit, but it's not a sure thing. But I know nobody wants to hear that. But but I think the best way for him is like you're talking about, whatever he has to work on, putting him in right away. Look, you just pointed out to some of the guys it worked for. I think the best thing for Michigan and for Underwood is that it's going to be a couple games before he's out there.
At least.
Yeah.
At least.
Right, because he could be out there. The idea is you want to win next year. You want to make the college football playoff.
Yep.
So, you're going to have some kind of learning curve. Sure. I think if he starts from day one, I'm not going to predict that, if people don't want to hear anything about the 35% that it might not work, or if he starts from day one, that means Michigan probably, isn't going to the college football playoff, because people want to have an exciting off season and think that, he's going to be the greatest thing ever. And he might be. And there's a percentage chance that, he is going to do that. So I'm not going to rain on anybody's parade about Bryce Underwood. I'm not even, trying to set it up like I would rain on it. I would just say it again. I don't think he's going to start from day one, and I think that'll be best for him and Michigan.
I think so. I agree with that totally, Denny.
Yeah. Remember the numbers that are being thrown out. We don't know about any 10 million. What we do know is that what it appeared is that number came out, and that Michigan internally got mad at the site and the dude that came out and put that out there as fact. Now, maybe it is fact. I mean, maybe the kid, knew exactly what he was talking about, and that, but they didn't want their business being aired out there because he wasn't even in yet. So they didn't want to screw anything up. So they didn't want some insider out there trying to, screw this thing up before it happened. The other part was, it wasn't long after that Bryce Underwood's family And his dad was quoted in a New York Times story saying that the money was about equal with LSU. Now, I actually don't believe that. Like I said, I think it is 8 figures myself. He could get it. Why not take it? But it doesn't matter. Like, I understand both Underwood's family and Michigan being like, well, we're not telling you exactly how much. They don't have to tell you how much it is. Put it out there. And for the Underwoods, you would rather have everyone thinking that he came to Michigan, he had a change of heart because he just, he loved the maize and blue. He wanted to stay home. He really connected with Sharon Moore and wasn't really feeling it with LSU. And it wasn't just that he came for the money, which I wouldn't care, but a lot of people do care about that stuff.
Somebody this Rip Star said something about the JJ Cade McNamara scenario, and I think that was probably one of the best ways to handle a freshman quarterback that is looking to be your second-year starter. I think the way we handled JJ was very good, and I could see something like that again next year.
Yeah, there's Woodshed saying he's in the mine. They're going to start Bryce, but not after the competition. Alex Orji isn't out of it. He's in the transfer portal. I would say he is out of it. Jadyn Davis, if we don't see anything in the bowl season, I would think that he is out of it. And, I get that you just want to put this all at Kirk Campbell's feet. That's what a lot of people will do. Like, Kirk Campbell couldn't recruit. Kirk Campbell couldn't, coach any of these quarterbacks out of a wet paper bag. I understand how all of that goes. But here's the thing, that you weren't firing Sharon Moore last year.
No.
But the decision, even if Kirk Campbell, was the one saying, well, I really think Alex Orji's the one. And, Tuttle's, having him in the back pocket, we're all set, Sharon. Sharon's the one that has to say, okay, I see what you're saying. And ultimately it comes back to Sharon Moore. So
absolutely. This is
anybody that I see dogging Kirk Campbell and, you're basically ripping Sharon Moore because that was the guy that he hired. And Sharon Moore has the authority to nix anything that his quarterback coach or offensive coordinator is saying.
And Sharon Moore was the offensive coordinator last year anyway. So if anybody has the pulse on the offense, it should be him.
What do you mean he was the offensive coordinator the year before, not last year?
Yeah.
You're saying that. Yeah. I don't know.
He has the pulse of the offense. He knows what's going on with the offense. He should know everything. That was all. In my opinion, it was all Sharon. Now,
Jerry, what do you think? I've talked about somebody mentioned the new offensive coordinator, Chip Lindsey. What do you think of the new offensive coordinator? Do you think that was a good hire?
Well, Denny, first of all, I didn't know much about him. Okay. And when I'm looking at hirees and who's coming in, I want to know their background. I want to know who inspired them, where they cut their teeth, where they were successful at, and take a look at the person that way. And I kept coming up with this. Where is Michigan's connection with this guy? I don't get it. Usually Michigan has a connection to their people, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find out where this guy was, where it was connected. So I go back and we look at him. Alabama, Georgia high school coach for a lot of years. So he's competed in high school very well. He goes in, I think his first year was assistant quarterback coach in 2013, and I believe that was with Malzone at Auburn. Okay, his first shot was quarterback coach at Troy in 2010. That was his first college coaching spot. He goes back to high school for 2 years, and he comes on under Gus Malzahn at Auburn. At Auburn, right? Yeah. Then he goes, and this is where the connection gets a little bit more clear to me. Then he goes to Southern Miss from 2014 and 2015. Now, remember, he is crediting Gus Malzahn for his offensive running style, his running coordinator, running game influencer for all. And if you look at Gus Malzahn, it was a high-paced, high-speed offense but really was a predicated wing tee type thing, which again works to us. It's familiar with us. Pin and pull. All that is buck. For the old wing tee people out there that are following me right now. Okay. All that pin and pull that we do, all that is really buck. We're gonna, the old Vince Lombardi. We're gonna kick here. We're gonna kick here. We're gonna create a seal here. We're gonna get up in the tunnel and we're gonna run up the alley. Okay, that old kind of Vince Lombardi kind of stuff, and that's where he got his influence from Malzahn. Then the next one that really came to mind was when he went to Southern Miss and he coached under Todd Monken. Now, who is Todd Monken? Most of you out there should know this. Todd Monken was at Georgia for 2 years, winning national championships, and is now currently the offensive coordinator at Baltimore. Why is that interesting? To me, it tells me Sharon still has that very good connection with the Harbaugh family, and I think there's a connection between Monken and Lindsey and going to Michigan. I think that's where the rubber met the road. I think that's where the connection came from. And the more I look at it, the more I like it.
Jerry, when, now the guys, they look at the iPads and they can even draw up stuff on the iPads right on the sideline. In high school, at one point, you just reminded me there's the commercial where they got Vince Lombardi on the chalkboard, and he's got, you get a seal here and then you get a seal there. And I love it.
The alley.
It's more pleasing aesthetically to watch the football coaches go to the chalkboard with real chalk, and banging the chalkboard and messing with, cracking their chalk than it is the whiteboard. The whiteboard, it has its thing there. And I know if we just take the tablet and throw it out, my question to you is, did you evolve to the whiteboard, or did you stay old school with the chalkboard at times? And
Denny, I broke both. I broke both.
Oh,
the chalk and the dry erase markers. I broke them all.
Broke them. You're just mad. You broke it over your knee.
And... Denny, when you hit the board too hard on a dry erase marker,
yeah,
that thing goes inside.
It
gets pushed inside the dry, and you can't do it. And then you're stuck there.
Is that right? That's good. And the chalkboard, you broke a chalkboard one time?
Oh, heck yeah.
You broke a couple chalkboards?
I've done a little bit of everything.
I like the iPads that the quarterbacks are looking at, or they just throw them.
But let's go back to.
All right, go ahead. Before you go any further, Jerry, I wanted to just tell everyone this, and it's about the holiday season. And we mentioned that when we came on, you're out there, you're thinking about getting someone a gift. If you're a Michigan fan, send them to the bowl game to Florida for a week and watch Michigan play Alabama. Buy them some basketball tickets to see Dusty May's team. And you know what also is a great thing for Michigan fans? The Maize and Blue Review, to know everything about Michigan recruiting, Michigan personnel, everything that's going on with football and basketball and other Michigan sports, all there. And you can get instant access right now. But it makes a great gift, is my point. Go to michigan.rivals.com. I hope it didn't break your train of thought. You were going somewhere, Jerry.
The thing that sticks out about Lindsey.
Yeah, Lindsey.
His teams put points on the board. Okay, number one, his teams can put some points on the board. You look, Central Florida, they averaged 32 points per game. Fifth in the conference with 32 points a game. Wow. Where was he at? North Carolina, same thing. He was up there in the 34.5 points per game. His quarterback's always doing very well, throwing for over 3,600 yards. And Drake May threw for over 3,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 63%. Now, that's the top of the line, right? That's Drake May. But, I mean, he had John Rice Plumlee, over at Central Florida. 2,500 yards, 14 TDs, 8 interceptions, 63% completion. First in total offense, total yards with 6,500 yards. Second in yards per game, 469 yards a game they put up at Central Florida under John Rice Plumlee. Head coach at Troy, 450 yards a game, 33 points. At Auburn, Jared Stidman was the quarterback. 3,158 yards, 18 TDs, 6 interceptions, 66%, 34 points a game. So there's a pattern here. His quarterbacks complete typically around the 60 to 65% completion range. The quarterbacks, the offensive teams produce usually between 30 and 35 points a game. You give me 30, 35 points a game, a defensive coordinator should be loving you. Okay? You should win most of your games if you're going to score 30 to 35 points a game. Where else was I? Just something came up on there. Arizona State, he was there for 1 year, 33 points a game. So this guy puts up points. His quarterbacks do well. Their completion percentage is somewhere between 60 and 65%. He's probably averaging around 7-8 yards per attempt, which is what you want, maybe even more than that from some of the numbers I'm looking at right now. And he's got some great influencers like Malzahn and Monken. And so and I think he's going to fit real well in the Michigan Michigan coaching room.
Yeah, I like the 3 M's. I like that he worked with Drake May, and I like Monken, what he's been able to do. You're talking about offensive minds and what he did at Georgia, now what he's doing with the Ravens this year. That's pretty good. And you can say whatever you want about Gus Malzahn. He's had some success. People look at him from an offensive standpoint as somebody that's pretty cutting edge. So those 3 M's I like.
And remember, Malzahn was the offensive coordinator with I just had his name up. The coach that won at Auburn with Cam Newton. Gosh, I can't think of his name.
Gene Chizik.
Chizik. So, yeah.
I have Billy Edwards Jr. news that I will get to in a minute or two, so don't go anywhere. Cut from a different cloth is putting some feedback up here. And he said, Moore says he talks to Harbaugh multiple times a week and to John Harbaugh, Stoops, and Mike Tomlin once a week. I don't think you have that quote exactly correct. I was at that news conference. He does talk with Harbaugh, both of them, and he does regard Stoops, and he does speak with Tomlin, but I don't think he specifically said. In fact, I know he didn't specifically say that he talks to Harbaugh multiple times a week and these other guys once a week. He does talk to them, but I just wanted to clear that up because you were putting it down there like that it was.
The main thing is in that whole scenario, the main thing is Sharon Moore has a very good connection with some really top-notch coaches.
Right.
That can put him in place to get top-notch coaches into Michigan. That was the point.
Right. And I bet all of those coaches will tell him when he's like, what do I need to do to get better at Michigan? I think all of them probably would said, you need to bring in analysts that you trust, that you can bounce things off, and that you can, that can, help you with all the different things that you're going. I don't know if his head was spinning or anything else, but Jim Harbaugh did that a lot. He had trusted analysts.
Oh, heck yeah.
He could go to, and he didn't make many decisions, if any, without his brain trust. And I would think that John and Tomlin, those guys would all would give him that advice. And I hope the procedure of everything that they go through, from how he evaluates quarterbacks, how he's thinking about deploying his personnel, and that what he goes through to practice to try to get a read on his personnel, and then all of the game day situation stuff that they came up and was questioned with this year. There's a long list of things, and hopefully, and I would think that experienced coaches would be able to tell him, hey, these are the things that you got to do, and that they would take care of that. So those are the things that he does need to take care of. Let's hope that those trusted confidants were able to push him in the right direction. That's what I would think. That's when it comes down to it. Okay, Jerry, the other thing is the bowl game that Michigan is going to play. And Jalen Milroe announced this week that he's going to play for Alabama. Alabama is upset that they did not get into the college football playoff.
Which they didn't deserve.
Well, they were the last team out. So when you're the last team out, you're always going to make an argument. You can make an argument. SMU or actually Clemson stole their bid, but they're mad is the point. How tough of a game do you think this is going to be for Michigan? How are you looking at the, what do we call it, the Relia Quest Bowl?
Denny, I got to be honest with you. I'm baffled with bowl games anymore. You don't know who's playing in them. You really don't know anything until you see who shows up in the game. I mean, look at how bad Florida State fell off last year in the bowl game with those guys not playing. Like I think his name is Brandon Fisk, who transferred to Florida State from Western Michigan, who's playing with the Rams right now. He didn't play. Obviously the quarterback got hurt. But all those kids that didn't play in that game against Florida State, and look what happened to them. I mean, I think it spilled over into this year. So you never know what's going. These bowl games nowadays, it's not very predictable, in my opinion.
Well, the bowl games used to be so much bigger of a deal because you only had one at the end, or you had two, but the top teams weren't playing. It was just a bunch of arguing. But now that you have the college football playoff, that's what everybody is focused on. Yeah. And everything else is just, who knows who's going to be there. You show up on the day that the bowl games and turn it on and see who's going to go. You still are able to get some momentum if you win that. I think that's true. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if Michigan, I mean, they got a tough draw. They're going to go against Milroe. I don't think that this should be held too much against them, as much as maybe I would hold it against them in the past if they lost it. I can remember when Michigan, melted down against South Carolina a few years ago. Harbaugh was the head coach in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was just like, oh, this is a disaster. But when you're missing half your team, it's more than it's a game. You're playing in it, so you want to win. It's a record of that. And Michigan overall, even going back to Bo's days, it's not like they've had great record in bowl games, So yeah. You'd like to get that win, but it's not as big as it used to be.
I'm finding out more and more about the transfer portal, how it pertains to bowls and stuff like. I'm understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Denny, but I'm understanding you can enter into the transfer portal and still play in the bowl game with the team that you're transferring from.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I don't know why you would announce that you're going into the transfer portal and then play. But like I'm thinking about.
Maybe you haven't gotten an offer yet.
Well, Michigan had
maybe you want a better offer.
Michigan had a player last year that did that. I don't know if he played. Yeah, he played on special teams. So, and he said he was going to the. So that's true. Yeah, you can do that.
So now, what I also learned is, if you go into the transfer portal and you sign with somebody right now they can tell you that you can't play in that bowl game for the other team. So, Denny, this is learning as we go kind of thing. I mean, I don't know, we're in an area where it's getting a little bit more clear, but we're still wide open. We don't really know what's going to happen.
Well, there's a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that you're right. We don't exactly know. Like the contract, I saw there was a lot of it was Facebook, but there was somebody that follows me on Facebook who was ripping Will Johnson about not playing in the bowl game and saying, I hope they, he should have to, because he, had his NIL money, and this is, you get the NIL money, you damn it, you should be playing in the bowl game. And I think, I don't know, because last year we had the quarterback from UNLV that just went in on a handshake deal and never got his money. But you would think both on Michigan side and on the player side that they have a contract where both the player and the team has protection. Like if Will Johnson, I don't know what he was getting last year in NIL, but if it was $1 million, I would have thought that he would get, $250 in game one, $250 after 6 games, and then, but there was going to be a portion of that NIL money, whether it was $100,000 or whatever, that you would get after the bowl game. That if you played, and then if you decided that you were going to go pro, well, that's going to be, some money that you're not going to get. I think that's all included in the contract, but we don't see those contracts. We don't know how much money they're getting. So people, they just say whatever they want, to get mad at somebody but I don't think there's any reason to get mad at Will Johnson or
I mean,
for not playing in the bowl game. I mean, come on.
McCaffrey, he's not playing right now. Should he be cut his money because he's injured? I mean, to me, that's not a very valid point. He signed a contract. He got his money. Okay. Whether he plays in a bowl game or not because he's hurt or not, it doesn't matter. It's his money. He signed it. Deal's a deal. Okay. He was thinking he was playing for a national championship this year. That's why he came back. Period. End of story. Okay. And he was going to go off into the sunset and go into the pros and be a top 10 draft choice in the first round. Okay. That didn't work out that well. So he's going to go off into the draft and collect and keep his money from Michigan. And, we had a great 2 years with you, Will. You did a great job for us. 2.5 years.
Here's the other thing. Not only do we don't know how much money or what the contract looks like, we don't really know what the injury status is. Now, we knew that he broke his finger and that he hurt his shoulder against USC. And then I thought it was an ankle, but it turned out to be a turf toe. Yeah. But with like 6 weeks to go, Sharon Moore, when he was talking about injuries, he's like, Will Johnson's injury is not something that's going to keep him out for the rest of the year. That's what Sharon Moore said. Now, he should never have said that. Now, he probably wasn't thinking about, well, Will could get mad at me and, he could sit out the rest of the year, especially if we lose a couple of these. He wasn't thinking about all that. But I don't know if that ticked off Will. He sure in the ensuing weeks was always very close and buttoned up about, he's working hard. We don't know. But for the fans, there's like, oh, well, Will Johnson's healthy. He should be healthy enough to come back. Moore never said, oh, well, he had a setback. I mean, that's the thing when it comes down to injuries. There's a lot of Michigan fans that feel like Will Johnson could have played in the bowl game and that he should be playing. He should have played against Ohio State and that he backed out. Ohio State. I also think that that's just in the moment, and the same people that are bitching or complaining about that will be retweeting stuff when he gets drafted about, Michigan player, corner, getting drafted as high since Charles Woodson. They'll also be the same Michigan fans that in 10 years when they're at a game and the national championship team's coming back, they'll be standing up and, screaming and applauding. If they see him in the parking lot, they'll be over there getting pictures and autographs. They're the ones that are bitching about him today. So a lot of it's just hot air.
Hey, Denny, yeah. The young man did phenomenal for us for 2.5 years. Okay. Good luck to you, Will. Good luck to all you guys that are going out and going out. Good luck to you.
That's what I say. Good luck. That's it. Now, the only where I could see where I would get mad, and Scar brought it up, Abdullah for Penn State. He's going to be a top 10 pick, right? Their defensive end.
Yep.
Penn State is in the playoff.
Wow.
If Abdullah sat out, and the thought was that he was doing it to preserve his draft status, I would be upset if I was a Penn State fan. If Michigan was in the playoff this year and
season isn't over, you're still playing for something at that point.
Yeah, I know they're still playing for something. You're right, Jerry. There's the line. It's a pretty easy line to see, right?
You're still playing for something. What are you stepping out for? That makes no sense to me. I'm a pro GM. This guy's last game is in his contract, and we're going to the playoffs. So he says, I'm gonna wait and fill my contract out for next year. That could happen too. So no, I'm not good with that. Not at all. If you're still playing for something, you got to fill that obligation.
Yeah, not all of the I think former Michigan players agree with you, Jerry. And we're talking about the fans, but there's when was it? It was Karan Higdon and Devin Bush. So I don't know, was that about 5-6 years ago? They were both captains at Michigan. And then they decided that they were not going to play in the bowl game. I think it was against Florida.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of former players that didn't like that. They didn't think that was, you're a captain, you should play. But they weren't playing, they're playing in you want to say meaningless bowl game, you can say whatever you want. But there's some people that didn't like, just like the fans still, they don't like it. Everybody has their choice. But, the former players said they didn't like it. Whatever. Right?
Listen, let's put captain on Jake Butt. Do you still feel that way? Jake Butt played because he was a captain. He got hurt, and his NFL career was really cut short. He was a great ball player for Michigan. So I'm sorry. I'm not going to agree. I'm going to agree to disagree.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think a lot of hot air. This one's interesting. So Chris says Peppers. He's mad at Peppers because he was warming up in the Orange Bowl against Florida State and then tapped out.
That one kind of bothered me because it was a big bowl game. I wanted to beat Florida State. But, again, that was the same day that Buck got hurt. And so I'm sure Peppers was thinking to himself, I made the right move.
Well, and that goes back again. Like, so you're saying claiming injury and you never forgave him. What if there are instances, and you might not believe it, that you're warming up, and you get some fast twitch, and you sprint out there, and you feel a little something.
Hey, you were watching the game last night with the Rams and the 49ers, and it was Trey Greenwald, right? Who was running out on the
Super Bowl, right?
Super Bowl, and he blows out his Achilles tendon. So, those injuries can happen anytime.
Right. People thought that he was like, oh, I'm warming up. I feel a little something. No, you didn't. You just didn't want to play. I mean, how am I supposed to? I wouldn't saying that you never forgave him for that. Look, Jerry, I see all that, and I go back to my younger days. I feel bad because I recall that when Grant Hill left the Pistons to go to the Orlando Magic, I was on the radio and I said, I hope he gets injured and never plays again. I said that. It's a very harsh thing to say to somebody. I was upset that he was leaving the Pistons. We know what, he hurt his ankle and he basically never played again. I felt terrible about that. Somebody said, the guy loves the game. Why would you ever wish something like that? Which was a good point. I shouldn't have done it. I also, one time when Michigan was getting ready to play Michigan State and Drew Stanton was the quarterback, I was like, who's going to knock him out of the game? And I was taking calls. And that's another thing. You're not wishing injury on somebody. Drew Stanton got knocked out of that game by Lamar Woodley. And I felt bad about that. So finally, it took me a couple public instances where I said things about not, injuries and stuff, but I learned my lesson. So, somebody on here, saying wild things about not forgiving a player when you don't really know that he's injured, that's bad form. Just like me back in the day. Just learn from it. That's all. That's the way. Jerry, I think that's about it. When we go down, people, are doubting, hey, look, whatever. That's it. Do you remember the linebacker that blew? Yeah, Stephen Tulloch blew out his knee after sacking Aaron Rodgers doing the discount double check celebration. Yeah, he did. I mean, I don't know if that's the same thing or not, but you could say that was karma. I really like Stephen Tulloch. I've worked in Detroit and covered the Lions, and I interviewed him a few times. That guy, man, you talk to Stephen Tulloch for about 2 minutes, and you come away a big-time fan of his. So I don't have anything negative to say. I mean, he was celebrating. What the heck? I don't know if it's the same thing or not. But, okay, let's see. Going down the Jabril Peppers rabbit hole's not something that I was expecting to do, so I'm not going to do that. Let me give you the news that I had about Billy Edwards Jr., and he is visiting Michigan.
I like this one. I like this. This is good enough for me. We don't have to go get the guy from Florida State. We don't have to go get the guy from Texas A&M. This is a good one.
Florida State's getting cast down. Okay, so Billy Edwards Jr. is interested in Wisconsin. I don't know how that's going. I don't know if he's there right now, but he does have some interest in Wisconsin. But he's coming in Monday. Billy Edwards Jr. That's what we're expecting. So let's see what happens with that. That's the name right now, the likely portal quarterback that Michigan will pair up with Edwards. The rest of the quarterback room, we don't know about. Speculation. Like I said, I don't think that Jadyn Davis, unless he makes a move in bowl prep, and the bowl game is, going to be with the Maize and Blue, but that's just a guess from me. So that's
Remember, you got 21 other people that go around with the quarterback, so you can't put all your resources in one spot.
Jerry, is that what you would say to Mr. Martini, who says he's not excited about Edwards?
That would be one of my comments, yeah. I want to get some defensive tackles, some edge players. A lockdown corner would be beautiful. And a couple offensive linemen.
And what I would say, Mr. Martini, that, Billy Edwards, Billy the Kid, is not like this most exciting quarterback. Like, whoa, like you feel like you're going to go run out and, okay, Michigan's going to win the national championship. The part about wherever the top 5 quarterbacks that would do that for you, that would excite you, those 5 want to go somewhere where they're going to play, where they're going to get the starting job, and somebody's going to hand them $1 million or $2.
Yeah, right.
So you just keep going down the list. Miller Moss, hey, you want to come in? He's like, I don't know, man. You guys are going to be playing Underwood. He's going to be breathing down my neck, and the fans are going to be chanting his name in game 1. So you have to find a QB. It's not going to be one of the top guys. That's the thing. You could say, well, give that guy $10 million. Well, I don't know. There comes a point. Michigan would like, if there's ever a year with after the disaster the quarterback room was last year, and now that they have Underwood, you have to put as many resources and as much as you can in that quarterback room. They know that. I know that. And you know that. This is the best. I believe that this is the best that they can do.
Yeah, so, if you're a quarterback in the transfer portal, top-notch quarterback in the transfer portal, and you're looking at and you're thinking about Michigan, you're seeing Bryce Underwood, a hometown favorite, tough one to beat. That's going to be a tough one to win over.
Yeah, John mentioning, I don't know, Jerry, we can sit here all day. I'm not keeping you for over an hour, and I talked about a half hour. John's talking about Quinn Ewers has got, Arch Manning breathing down his neck, and maybe he's feeling it, down there in Texas. The difference is that they're in the college football playoff. And so, yeah, it could very well, I'm sure, down there in Austin, they're sitting around talking about if things don't go well against Clemson in the first half, do you think you might see Arch Manning anyways? But, so, yeah, they got 2 number 1 overall quarterbacks. So, that's the kind of thing I think the fans are like. You'd like to have Bryce Underwood, and then you'd like to have some other number 1, guy, the number 1 guy in the portal, the number 1 guy. But Texas and Ohio State, I don't know, Bama seems like they do that. Michigan, maybe Michigan will be able to come back and ring the bell next year for wherever the top quarterback is, and they can start having situations like, the 2 top players in a class. But that's not the case this year. We're talking about a transfer portal quarterback. Jerry, do you have anything else?
No, that's it, Denny. I'm pretty excited. The more I'm learning about Lindsey, the more I'm getting excited about him. I think he's going to be a productive coach. I think he's going to be something that's going to that quarterbacks are going to want to try to come to and learn. And I'd like to see Edwards sign with us. That would be a nice pickup, but we got to get other positions sewn up here quick.
Jerry wants to see if a lot of the focus on the quarterback, but he's thinking about that line play as well, and thinking about throwing some money at some guys that might, make it interesting to see if they can come back. All good stuff, Jerry. We're all over the place. Appreciate your time. Happy holidays to you. We look forward to talking with you down the line.
Hey. Hail to the victors, Denny. Hail to the victors. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Happy holidays. There it is. Thank you.